The shot wasn't a blank. Time slowed, and she moved. Her body covered his before anyone else flinched. The only question was, how did she know? Lieutenant Sarah Doc Mitchell had been assigned to Naval Special Warfare Training Center in Coronado for exactly 16 weeks. At 5 feet 6 inches with auburn hair pulled back in regulation style and piercing green eyes that missed nothing, she moved through her medical duties with the kind of quiet professionalism that made her invisible to most. She carried her medical kit with practiced ease, treated training injuries with expert precision, and maintained the supportive presence that characterized dedicated military nurses. To the SEAL candidates and training staff, she was simply their assigned medical officer, competent, reliable, and completely unremarkable in her professional role. What made Lieutenant Mitchell particularly effective, though few recognized it at the time, was her uncanny ability to anticipate problems before they manifested. During underwater demolition training, she would position herself exactly where oxygen emergencies would occur. During weapons training, she seemed to know which candidates would experience equipment malfunctions. During physical conditioning, she could predict with remarkable accuracy which candidates would push beyond safe limits and require immediate medical intervention. Her medical bay was organized with military precision that exceeded standard requirements. Every piece of equipment had its designated place. Every medication was inventoried with obsessive attention to detail, and every medical procedure was documented with thoroughness that impressed even senior medical officers. But there were subtle differences that most people overlooked. Tactical medical supplies that weren't standard for training facilities, emergency response equipment that suggested experience with more serious trauma than typical training injuries, and a personal confidence that seemed to come from handling situations far more dangerous than routine medical support. The candidates knew her through routine medical encounters and careful observation. Ma'am, when they needed medical attention, Lieutenant Mitchell, when discussing her professional capabilities, or Doc Mitchell, in everyday conversation. None of them had questioned her background beyond standard medical training, though several had noticed she possessed unusually sharp situational awareness and seemed to anticipate problems before they occurred during high-stress training evolutions. But the unknown can be revealing, especially when it involves people whose instincts have been honed by experiences far beyond medical school. Welcome to Silent Salute, where we uncover the extraordinary stories hiding behind ordinary military assignments. Before we dive into this incredible tale, tell us in the comments which country you're watching from today. And if you believe that true heroes often work in the shadows, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. We're honored to share these remarkable stories with you. Class 312 was deep into their most challenging phase of training. 32 candidates from diverse military backgrounds, all enduring the relentless preparation designed to forge America's most elite naval warriors. The daily schedule was brutal: intensive physical conditioning, advanced weapons training, underwater demolition exercises, live-fire tactical scenarios, and psychological challenges that pushed every candidate to their absolute limits. Through it all, Lieutenant Mitchell provided medical support with the same steady professionalism that had characterized her entire tour. The candidates had formed clear impressions about her role and capabilities. She was outstanding medical support who ensured they stayed healthy enough to continue the punishing training regimen. Her medical knowledge was comprehensive, her trauma response skills were exceptional, and her ability to handle serious training injuries was unquestioned. But she also displayed an unusual ability to read situations, often positioning herself exactly where problems would develop before anyone else recognized potential dangers. Among the candidates was Petty Officer Second Class Marcus Bulldog Rodriguez, a former Army Ranger who'd completed multiple combat tours before applying for SEAL training. Rodriguez was highly respected by his fellow candidates for his tactical experience and leadership abilities, but like everyone else, he assumed medical personnel operated outside the warrior mentality that defined special operations culture. Lieutenant Mitchell is absolutely solid, Rodriguez had told his swim buddy during their 15th week. Best medical officer I've worked with in 10 years of service. She's got this sixth sense about when things are about to go sideways during training. Seaman First Class Jake Rocket Thompson, who'd served as a Navy corpsman before SEAL training, offered his perspective on Lieutenant Mitchell's capabilities. Some medical personnel just have that natural intuition for danger, Rodriguez. She probably has extensive emergency room experience or maybe field medical training that taught her to anticipate problems. But Thompson's theory couldn't explain the specific type of awareness Lieutenant Mitchell displayed, the kind that suggested experience with situations far more dangerous than civilian trauma care or standard military medicine. The training environment at Coronado was deliberately designed to replicate the stress and complexity of actual special operations. Every exercise was crafted to test candidate capabilities under realistic conditions while maintaining safety standards that protected personnel from unnecessary risk. The balance between realistic training and safety requirements demanded constant vigilance from medical personnel who had to anticipate problems while avoiding interference with training objectives. Lieutenant Mitchell had established herself as the gold standard for training medical support. Her ability to provide excellent medical care while remaining invisible to training operations impressed instructors and candidates alike. She could treat serious injuries without disrupting tactical exercises, manage medical emergencies without creating training delays, and maintain candidate health without compromising training intensity. Her daily routine revealed additional clues to those paying attention. She arrived at the facility before dawn, not just to prepare for medical duties, but to conduct what appeared to be personal physical training that exceeded standard fitness requirements. Her workout regimen included advanced conditioning exercises, tactical movement drills, and weapons handling practice that suggested ongoing maintenance of combat readiness rather than basic fitness maintenance. During training briefings, Lieutenant Mitchell absorbed tactical information with intense focus that exceeded medical necessity. She studied facility layouts, learned communication protocols, memorized evacuation routes, and understood command structures with thoroughness that suggested operational rather than medical interest. Petty Officer First Class Alex Hammer Johnson, a former Marine Force recon operator, had noticed these details more than most. "There's something different about Doc Mitchell," he'd mentioned to his teammate during Week 14. "She moves like someone who's been in actual combat situations, not just medical training scenarios." Her interactions with senior staff were cordial but carefully controlled. She participated in discussions about candidate welfare and training safety, but avoided conversations about military experience or previous assignments. When questioned about her medical background, she provided basic information about military medical training while deflecting inquiries about specific assignments or operational experience. The incident that would reveal everything occurred during the 16th week of training when Class 312 was scheduled for advanced live-fire tactical assessment. This was among the most critical phases of SEAL training, where candidates demonstrated mastery of complex weapons systems and tactical procedures under realistic combat conditions that tested every aspect of their operational readiness. Lieutenant Mitchell was assigned to provide medical oversight for the live-fire evolution, positioned at her standard observation point, where she could monitor candidates for signs of distress while maintaining readiness to respond to accidents or injuries. Her role was exactly what it had always been: professional medical support and emergency response capability. The training was conducted at the Advanced Tactical Facility, with realistic scenarios that tested candidate proficiency under simulated combat stress. The exercises were carefully controlled, with multiple safety protocols and experienced range safety officers supervising every phase of the complex live-fire evolution. The Advanced Tactical Facility where live-fire training was conducted represented the pinnacle of military training technology. The facility featured computer-controlled target systems, realistic urban environments, advanced safety monitoring, and emergency response capabilities that enabled training scenarios that closely replicated actual combat conditions while maintaining safety standards that protected personnel from unnecessary risk. Among the candidates participating in the tactical assessment was Petty Officer 3rd Class Danny Scope Williams, a former Marine Corps sniper whose transition to SEAL training had been smooth and impressive. Williams had consistently performed at the top of his class and was considered one of the most promising candidates in the training cycle. The morning live-fire session had proceeded flawlessly, with candidates demonstrating exceptional proficiency with various weapons systems and tactical scenarios. Williams' performance had been outstanding, showing the precision and judgment that made him a standout performer throughout training. The training was conducted under the supervision of Master Chief Petty Officer David Hawk Stevens, a 30-year special operations veteran who had overseen thousands of live-fire exercises without serious incident. Stevens was known throughout naval special warfare for his meticulous attention to safety details and his ability to conduct realistic training while maintaining zero-tolerance standards for unnecessary risk. During the afternoon session, candidates were conducting advanced tactical scenarios that required split-second decision-making and precise weapons handling under realistic combat conditions. The scenarios were designed to test judgment, accuracy, and stress management in situations that replicated actual operational environments. Lieutenant Mitchell was positioned at her standard medical station, monitoring candidate performance and maintaining readiness for emergency response. Her attention was focused on potential injury risks while observing the complex tactical exercises that pushed candidate capabilities under realistic stress conditions. The critical moment began when Williams was executing a precision shooting scenario that required engaging multiple targets from an elevated position while coordinating with ground elements. The exercise was designed to test advanced marksmanship skills under tactical pressure, simulating conditions that SEAL snipers encountered during actual operations. Williams had positioned himself on the elevated platform and was beginning his target engagement sequence when a catastrophic equipment malfunction occurred that transformed routine training into life-threatening emergency. The range safety systems that controlled target presentation and ammunition supply experienced a critical failure that caused live ammunition to be loaded into weapon systems that should have contained only training rounds. The malfunction was invisible to candidates and instructors until the moment when training rounds became lethal projectiles. Williams squeezed the trigger expecting a standard training round, but instead fired live ammunition that ricocheted off the target system and began traveling toward the candidate area where Petty Officer Rodriguez was positioned during his portion of the tactical exercise. The ricocheted round was traveling at lethal velocity toward Rodriguez's position, and the trajectory would result in fatal impact within seconds. The angle and speed made evasion impossible, and Rodriguez was completely unaware of the incoming threat. Every person in the facility faced the same horrific realization simultaneously. A live round was about to kill a SEAL candidate, and there was no time for warnings, no opportunity for evasion, and no way to prevent tragedy from occurring. Except for Lieutenant Mitchell. While instructors were still processing what had happened and candidates were beginning to recognize the danger, Lieutenant Mitchell was already moving with explosive speed and precision that defied explanation. Her response wasn't medical training or standard safety protocol. It was tactical intervention that demonstrated experience with life-threatening situations that exceeded anything available through conventional military medicine. Lieutenant Mitchell covered the 30-foot distance to Rodriguez's position in less than 3 seconds, moving with athletic ability and tactical awareness that revealed training far beyond medical education. Her approach was direct, efficient, and perfectly timed to intercept the incoming round. She reached Rodriguez exactly as the ricocheted bullet arrived at his position, using her body to shield him from impact while executing a protective maneuver that absorbed the round's energy and prevented penetration to vital areas. The bullet struck Lieutenant Mitchell in the upper chest, penetrating her body armor and causing serious injury, but her tactical positioning had prevented the round from continuing to Rodriguez's position where it would have caused fatal damage. Contact. Live round. Corpsman. Lieutenant Mitchell called out calmly despite taking a bullet wound, immediately transitioning from protective action to medical response coordination. 1 casualty, penetrating chest wound, need immediate trauma response and medevac preparation. She had absorbed a potentially fatal bullet wound to save Rodriguez's life, and her first priority was ensuring proper medical response for both casualties while maintaining tactical awareness of ongoing range safety concerns. The entire training facility erupted into emergency response. Range safety officers implemented immediate lockdown procedures. Medical personnel rushed to provide trauma care, and training staff began coordinating emergency evacuation while investigating the equipment malfunction that had created the life-threatening situation. But everyone who witnessed Lieutenant Mitchell's response understood that they had seen something extraordinary. tactical intervention that had saved a life through split-second decision-making and physical courage that exceeded standard military training. Rodriguez, who had been seconds away from death, was completely uninjured thanks to Lieutenant Mitchell's protective action. His first words reflected the shock and gratitude that everyone in the facility was experiencing. "Lieutenant Mitchell threw herself in front of a bullet to save my life," Rodriguez said quietly. She knew that round was coming before anyone else even understood what was happening. Senior Chief Petty Officer Jackson, the senior instructor who had witnessed the entire incident, approached Lieutenant Mitchell while she was receiving medical treatment for her bullet wound. "Lieutenant Mitchell," Jackson said with obvious respect and amazement, "how did you know that round was incoming? Your response time was faster than anyone else's recognition of the threat." Lieutenant Mitchell, despite her injury, provided insight that began to reveal experience that most military medical personnel never encounter. Previous assignments required developing threat recognition capabilities and protective response training. You can't provide medical support in hostile environments if you can't identify and respond to incoming fire that threatens personnel under your care. The range safety investigation revealed that Lieutenant Mitchell had recognized the equipment malfunction and calculated the ricochet trajectory before anyone else understood that live ammunition had been fired. Her response had demonstrated tactical awareness and threat assessment capabilities that exceeded those of most combat veterans. Williams, whose weapon malfunction had created the crisis, was deeply affected by Lieutenant Mitchell's sacrifice to protect his fellow candidate. "Ma'am, you saved Rodriguez's life by putting yourself between him and that bullet. That kind of courage and tactical awareness. Where did you learn those capabilities?" Lieutenant Mitchell's answer, delivered while being prepared for medical evacuation, provided context for experience that fundamentally changed everyone's understanding of her background. Specialized medical operations in denied territory, combat casualty evacuation under fire, and protective medical support where traditional security wasn't available or sufficient for mission requirements. Jackson asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Lieutenant, what kind of assignments required medical personnel to have tactical threat recognition and protective response capabilities?" Lieutenant Mitchell's response was carefully measured while providing insight into her unusual qualifications. Forward combat medical operations where medical personnel functioned as both trauma specialists and protective security for casualties who couldn't be evacuated. Through conventional channels. Senior Chief Jackson, who had 30 years of special operations experience, recognized that Lieutenant Mitchell's demonstration had revealed capabilities that suggested classified operational background far beyond standard military medicine. "Lieutenant Mitchell," Jackson said, "after you recover from this injury, we need to discuss how your tactical experience might enhance our advanced training programs." Lieutenant Mitchell accepted the future discussion, understanding that her protective action had revealed capabilities that could benefit SEAL training in ways that had never been available before. During her recovery period, more details about Lieutenant Mitchell's background began to emerge through official channels and classified personnel records that required special access clearances to review. Her previous assignments had included service with classified medical units that provided tactical trauma support for the most dangerous and sensitive operations in the special operations community. Her training had included advanced combat medicine, threat recognition, protective security procedures, and trauma care under active combat conditions. "What we're discovering," Senior Chief Jackson explained to the training command, "is that Lieutenant Mitchell represents a specialized category of military medical professionals who are trained to operate in environments where medical personnel must function as both trauma specialists and tactical operators." Upon her return to duty, Lieutenant Mitchell worked with the training staff to develop enhanced threat recognition scenarios that tested candidates' ability to identify equipment malfunctions, respond to unexpected dangers, and protect personnel under their responsibility during complex training evolutions. "The operations I supported," Lieutenant Mitchell explained to the candidates, "required understanding that effective combat medicine often involves protective response to threats that endanger both patients and medical personnel. You can't save lives if you can't recognize and respond to incoming fire or equipment failures that create immediate danger." Her training scenarios included realistic equipment malfunction exercises where candidates had to identify safety failures while providing medical care, threat recognition drills where medical personnel led protective response, and decision-making scenarios where medical and security requirements had to be balanced under extreme time pressure. The range safety officers who had witnessed Lieutenant Mitchell's protective action became regular participants in the enhanced training programs. Their safety expertise was integrated with Lieutenant Mitchell's threat recognition experience, creating training that reflected the complex coordination required for actual combat medical operations. Working with Lieutenant Mitchell, Senior Chief Jackson told the candidates, demonstrates why modern special operations require personnel who can integrate multiple capabilities seamlessly. Medical expertise and tactical awareness aren't separate skills. They're components of comprehensive operational readiness. The candidates quickly learned that Lieutenant Mitchell's combat medical experience provided insights that enhanced every aspect of their training. Her understanding of threat recognition, protective response, and decision-making under extreme danger created learning opportunities that exceeded anything available through conventional training methods. Rodriguez, whose life had been saved by Lieutenant Mitchell's protective action, became one of her most dedicated students. Lieutenant, your willingness to take a bullet to protect me has completely changed how I understand operational responsibility. You've shown us that true tactical excellence means being willing to sacrifice for the people under your protection. Williams, whose weapon malfunction had created the crisis, was profoundly influenced by Lieutenant Mitchell's response to the situation. Ma'am, your ability to recognize the threat and respond faster than anyone else has taught me that effective tactical training must include equipment failure recognition and protective response capabilities. Johnson, the former Force Recon operator who had suspected there was more to Lieutenant Mitchell's background, found his instincts confirmed. Lieutenant, working with you has shown me that the most dangerous operators are often those who don't advertise their capabilities. Your experience has enhanced our understanding of what true tactical readiness looks like. Thompson, the former corpsman, gained new appreciation for advanced combat medical capabilities. Ma'am, your integration of medical expertise and tactical response has redefined what I thought was possible for military medical personnel. You've shown us that effective combat medicine requires preparation for threats that exceed standard medical scenarios. The enhanced training programs that Lieutenant Mitchell developed were eventually adopted throughout Naval Special Warfare Command, establishing new standards for integrated threat recognition and protective response capability. Her methods influenced special operations training worldwide and enhanced the effectiveness of military personnel in managing unexpected equipment failures and safety emergencies. Master Chief Stevens, who had overseen the live-fire exercise where the incident occurred, became one of Lieutenant Mitchell's strongest advocates for expanding her role in training development. Lieutenant Mitchell's experience has taught us that effective training must prepare personnel for equipment failures and unexpected threats that exceed standard safety parameters. Her methods have enhanced our capability to train operators for the unexpected. The advanced tactical facility where the incident had occurred was redesigned to incorporate Lieutenant Mitchell's insights about threat recognition and protective response. New safety protocols were developed that reflected her understanding of how equipment malfunctions could create life-threatening situations, and emergency response procedures were enhanced to address the kinds of split-second decisions that her experience had revealed as critical. But perhaps Lieutenant Mitchell's greatest contribution was demonstrating that true operational excellence required preparation for situations that exceeded standard training parameters. Her experience supporting classified operations had provided insights that enhanced readiness for all special operations personnel. The story of Lieutenant Mitchell's protective action became legendary at the training facility, shared with new classes as an example of how extraordinary tactical capabilities often hide behind routine medical assignments. Her example reminded candidates that in special operations, the most valuable people are often those whose true experience and capabilities remain carefully concealed behind standard military roles. The most important lesson you can learn here, instructors would tell new candidates, is that exceptional capability often comes in unexpected forms. The person providing medical support might be someone who's handled threats more dangerous than anything you'll encounter in training. Years later, When Lieutenant Mitchell transitioned to other assignments, her legacy lived on in the enhanced training programs she developed and in the understanding that true professional excellence often requires maintaining operational security about tactical capabilities and specialized experience. Her story reminded everyone that in naval special warfare, as in life, the most dangerous assumptions are those we make about people who seem to fit perfectly into support roles, because the most exceptional people are often those who choose to hide their extraordinary tactical capabilities behind compassionate professional responsibilities. Lieutenant Mitchell's protective action became synonymous with the integration of medical and tactical excellence, representing the highest standards of special operations capability and the understanding that the most effective military personnel are those who can respond to any threat with appropriate skills and selfless courage. The moment when she had absorbed that bullet to save Rodriguez's life had lasted only seconds, but its impact continued for years, reminding everyone that extraordinary tactical capabilities often hide behind the most caring professional appearances, and that the people we trust for support may be the ones with the most important skills to share about protecting others when everything goes wrong. The sight of her body shielding Rodriguez from that incoming round while she absorbed the impact had demonstrated not just individual courage, but a broader understanding of how military training must prepare personnel for equipment failures and unexpected threats that exceed standard safety parameters. Her willingness to share tactical experience through training development showed that true professionalism continues long after specialized assignments end. The enhanced training protocols that emerged from Lieutenant Mitchell's experience created a new standard for special operations medical support that recognized the need for medical personnel who could function as both trauma specialists and tactical operators. Her methods were studied and implemented across multiple military services, establishing her as a pioneer in integrated combat medical operations. The candidates who trained under Lieutenant Mitchell's enhanced programs consistently demonstrated superior performance in threat recognition, protective response, and crisis management compared to candidates trained under conventional methods. Her influence on special operations training extended far beyond the specific incident that had revealed her capabilities. Rodriguez, whose life had been saved by Lieutenant Mitchell's protective action, eventually completed SEAL training and became a team leader himself. Throughout his career, he credited Lieutenant Mitchell's example with teaching him that true leadership meant being willing to sacrifice for the people under his protection. Lieutenant Mitchell didn't just save my life that day, Rodriguez would tell his own team members years later. She taught me that the most important tactical skill is the willingness to put others before yourself when everything goes wrong. Williams, whose equipment malfunction had created the crisis, also completed training and became a SEAL sniper. His experience with Lieutenant Mitchell's response influenced his approach to equipment maintenance and safety protocols throughout his career. What I learned from Lieutenant Mitchell, Williams would explain to junior operators, is that effective tactical operations require preparation for equipment failures and unexpected threats. Her response to my weapon malfunction showed me that true professionals are always ready for the unexpected. The legacy of Lieutenant Mitchell's protective action extended beyond individual careers to influence military medical training doctrine worldwide. Her demonstration that medical personnel could and should be prepared to function as tactical operators in crisis situations led to fundamental changes in combat medical education. Military medical schools began incorporating threat recognition training, protective response techniques, and crisis management skills into their curricula. The integration of medical expertise and tactical capabilities that Lieutenant Mitchell had demonstrated became a standard component of advanced military medical training. This story was brought to you by Silent Salute. Before we leave you today, here's our question. Have you ever discovered that someone you knew in a medical or support capacity actually possessed extraordinary tactical or threat recognition capabilities that they kept hidden? Have you encountered people whose professional roles concealed remarkable abilities to identify and respond to dangerous situations? Tell us in the comments about the moments when you realized you'd been working alongside someone whose protective instincts and tactical awareness exceeded your own understanding. And if you believe that the most capable people are often those who don't need to advertise their abilities, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. Every story reminds us that extraordinary tactical capabilities often hide behind compassionate professional roles, and that the people we notice least may be the ones with the most to teach us about protecting others when danger strikes. We'll see you in the next story, where we'll discover another incredible tale of hidden expertise and unexpected heroism.